Ted, tell us a little bit about this program that you are associated with, the Connect4Climate. What exactly does it mean? Give us a sense as to really what it means in a layperson's language.
So Connect4Climate is a campaign, a coalition, and a competition basically to communicate the effects of climate change and a platform to listen to those voices at the end of the development mile to tell us how climate change is affecting them. But not necessarily just to listen about how it's affecting them, but also to crowdsource some innovative solutions that we may never hear from in terms of climate change mitigation strategies from individuals on the ground. We talk about climate change here in the Western world as dealing with high-stakes individuals and governments and doing all of this negotiating. But at the end of the day, it's that farmer, it's that entrepreneur on the ground who relies on the environment. And we want to hear from him, how has the change in the climate affected you and your livelihood and your community and your country? So those stories need to match the data. They need to come to the fore. So that's what our platform is. And we go about it by assembling a coalition of partners. We have nearly 150 global partners who get the word out, who source the stories, who bring in those solutions, who also share their knowledge in terms of climate change, because there is a gap between those that have the solutions and those that are looking for the solutions. So we kind of like to act as a convener of both knowledge partners and well as practitioners and those affected.
Now, Ted, is the competition open globally, or is it limited to the African continent?
Well, two things. The first competition we had last year was targeted at Africa because of COP18 was in Durban in South Africa last December. And through the use of social media, we saw an opportunity to engage African youth, to really hear their voices, to aggregate their voices on climate change and how the continent is affected, and take those stories to Durban. A lot of people said that wouldn't be possible, but we were able to aggregate stories from all the African countries, and never before would that have been available without the use of social media. I mean, we were really canvassing the continent to hear the best climate change stories and videos out of the continent. We got over 700 submissions in photos, near over 50 videos that were sent in. So Africa's youth, I mean, if you look at the demographics, they're growing up with this technology and the ability to be able to tell you what's going on the ground. So we took that success and we were really excited about it and said, what if we took that globally? What if we heard about, from all of the other youth around the world? Because if it's one thing that unites us, it's climate. Whether you're here in DC, in New York, or, like my mother who is listening right now in Masindi.
Really?
Yeah, we are under the same umbrella of climate and everything that affects us, but we also know that the continent is affected the most. So this is how we ended up partnering with Terra Africa and saying, these are the solutions that you're doing on the ground. Let's use this platform to actually get stories back from the continent, recording and talking about and sharing that knowledge in terms of, you were talking about earlier about the farmers in, was it Mali? Or
the farmers in Zambia.
In Zambia, who were, self-started this project to reclaim their hills and be able to do these stories. We want to hear those stories because by sharing that, we're hoping that it motivates other people around the world to say, well, if they can do it, perhaps we can do it also. So the competition that we have on now, Voices for Climate, is basically a global attempt to get photos, videos, music videos, as well as radio podcasts. The one for Terra Africa, we're looking for radio podcasts and basically tapping into the individuals that you reach out to and saying, send us a radio story about climate change in your community. Anybody from around the world can submit those stories, but they have to be about Africa. In the other categories, it's a global call to action, and we want to hear those stories.
You talk about youth, but what about nailing it down to age brackets? Who is the sort of youth that qualifies for this particular competition you're talking about? So
for the global part of the competition, anyone 13 to 35 can participate. For the Terra Africa podcast stories, anyone 18 to 35 can participate. And I think it's important to actually note there's a sense of urgency for the Terra Africa category. We have submissions, but time is running out for those that have the ability to send in their stories. They have until October 29th at midnight to submit those stories.
And how can they reach you?
They can reach and submit stories at voicesforclimate.org.
They can reach you by what?
Go to the website, voicesforclimate.org. Or are you asking how can they reach me personally?
No. Well, by reaching you, I suppose they'll be reaching the competition.
Indeed.
What about, there's a question that I remember asking you a little bit earlier before we came on air. To what extent does your competition, for example, complement or supplement the work that is being done by people like your fellow panelist, Paola?
Well, in a way, we look at it as a way to, there's a component of knowledge management that's attached to it. Is because by having the ability to crowdsource solutions, we can take those stories and solutions, innovative solutions that people are doing on the ground, and using their platform, they can replicate it because they have scale. And I think that's extremely powerful, because without a platform like Voices for Climate, we might not hear about some innovative solutions in some village somewhere. And with the use of social media technology and the ability to reach people who have never been heard before, I think that helps your project a lot more to be able to spread the effective solutions that are happening from the ground. Because we have to understand solutions are not only going to come from the top all the way down, we have to look at it from the other perspective, in that we have to open up the platform to be able to say, we want to crowdsource solutions from you as well. Solutions that we can take from the ground all the way up.